Module 13, Literary Criticism and Theory. These texts establish the rules of literature and defends its existence against moral and social critics. We are talking about classical and neoclassical foundations. Aristotle's Poetics, the bedrock of Western criticism. He introduces mimesis, imitation, catharsis, emotional purging, and the structural requirements of tragedy. There are more. Philip Sidney, An Apology for Poetry, a Renaissance defense. Sidney argues that poetry is superior to philosophy and history because it not only teaches but also delights and moves the reader to virtue. The work was a reply to Stephen Gosson. Next, coming to Romanticism and Modernism, a shift towards the psychology of the creator and the autonomy of the artwork. Samuel Coleridge, Biographia Literaria, chapter 14. It is famous for distinguishing between fancy and imagination. He explores the willing suspension of disbelief. Next, T.S. Eliot, Tradition and Individual Talent, a pivot toward modernism. Eliot argues against personality, suggesting the poet's mind is a catalyst and that new art must be understood in the context of the entire monumental tradition. Next, formalism and myth criticism. These thinkers focus on the internal structure and recurring patterns of literature. Clint Brooks, The Language of Paradox. It's a cornerstone of new criticism. He argues that the language of poetry is a language of paradox. It cannot be translated into prose without losing its essence. Next, Northrop Frye's Archetypes of Literature moves away from the individual text to look at the big picture, recurring myths, symbols, and seasonal cycles that underpin all storytelling. Next, coming to Marxism and power dynamics, texts that view literature as a product of economic conditions, social class, and power structures. Karl Marx, The Fetishism of Commodities. It's crucial for understanding how objects, and by extension art, are stripped of their human labor and treated as magical entities in a capitalist market. Edmund Wilson, Marxism and Literature, examines how social conditions shape literary value, though Wilson often warned against reducing art to only propaganda. Michael Foucault, Two Lectures and the Unities of Discourse. Foucault explores how truth and knowledge are produced by systems of power. He challenges the idea that authors or disciplines are natural, seeing them instead as ways to control discourse. Psychoanalysis, using the maps of the mind to decode the hidden meanings in text. Sigmund Freud, The id, ego and superego, the tripartite model of the psyche. The conscious, unconscious idea that the most important work of a text happens beneath the surface in the realm of repressed desires. Next, structuralism, post-structuralism and post-colonialism, the theory explosion that questions the stability of meaning and identity. Jacques Derrida, Difference, the core of deconstruction. He argues that meaning is never present but always deferred and different, existing only in the gaps between words. Edward Said's Introduction to Orientalism, the foundation of post-colonial theory. He exposes how the West constructed a stereotypical othered version of the East to justify imperial rule. Feminism and queer theory, challenging the male-centric and heteronormative canon. Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own, the essential argument that a woman needs financial independence and physical space to create. Elaine Showalter's Feminist Criticism in the Wilderness. She introduces gynocriticism, focusing on women as writers rather than just how men portray them. Helen Sixo's The Laugh of the Medusa, a call for écriture féminine, women's writing that breaks away from logical, phallocentric language. Eve Sedgwick's Epistemology of the Closet, a foundational text for queer theory, examining how the closet, the secret of same-sex desire, shaped modern Western culture. New Historicism, Stephen Greenblatt, Shakespeare and the Exorcist. Instead of seeing literature in a vacuum, Greenblatt looks at how a play circulates with other non-literary documents of its time, like religious pamphlets, to show how culture creates art.